Should you invest or pay off your mortgage first? Well, while you might try to pay off your mortgage as soon as possible, but what you may not know is that you could potentially end up with more money if you were to invest and pay off your mortgage at the same time. And with the recent interest rate changes in Canada, you might be wondering whether you should be investing or trying to pay off your mortgage as soon as possible. Well, after helping over 100 plus clients learn to use money to design a life they actually love, whether you should invest or pay off your mortgage really depends on your unique financial situation and goals. And so that's why in this video, I'm gonna walk you through the exact process I walk my clients through to help you decide whether you should invest or pay off your mortgage based on your unique financial situation and goals. Let's get into it. Okay, so let me give you a real life example of one of my clients. My client is a lawyer living and working in Vancouver, Canada, and she currently owns a 1-bedroom condo. She has a total mortgage of about $650,000 with an interest rate of 3.5% with a term of 30 years. She got a pretty good deal from her employer. Recently, after getting a raise, she now has an extra $1,000 per month that she can use to either invest in the stock market or use to pay off her mortgage faster. And so she reached out and asked me, Michael, what should I do? And this is how I helped her. The first step is to establish the current plan. Based on her $650,000 mortgage with a 3.5% interest rate in a 30-year period, she would have to pay about $2,900 per month or $36,000 per year for her mortgage. And as you can see here, in the early years of her mortgage, she'll be paying a lot of money for the interest, and the remaining will reduce the ending balance of the mortgage. And by year 30, assuming interest rates stay the same, she would have fully paid off her mortgage. Now this is based on the current plan. But now she has an extra $1,000 per month. Should she use this money to invest in the stock market or pay down her mortgage? Okay, so scenario number 2 is if we were to pay off the mortgage as soon as possible. Let's see what her finances will look like if we were to use an extra $1,000 per month to pay off her mortgage as soon as possible. Okay, I know this looks a little bit complicated here, but let me walk you through it. And so everything is pretty much the same except for the payment amount. The payment amount is equal to the previous mortgage amount of $36,000 plus $12,000. And as you can see here, by paying an extra $12,000 per year, we'll pay off the mortgage by year 19. Now, the next column is called interest savings. This is the additional savings that we would get from paying less interest because we're paying down the mortgage faster. This is calculated by taking the total interest paid in scenario number 1 minus the total interest paid in scenario number 2. The next column is the amount of money that we invest. Now, I'm making an assumption that any interest savings is going to be invested into the stock market at an annual rate of return of 8%. And so until year 19, she's only able to invest the savings from interest savings. However, after year 19, when her mortgage is fully paid off, she can now start investing the full $48,000 plus any additional savings. And so by year 30, her investments would have a total value of $1 million. Okay, but what if we were to invest this $12,000 into the stock market instead? Would she end up with more money? Let's take a look. Scenario number 3 is if we were to invest this $12,000 in the stock market. This section here is the exact same as scenario number 1 because we aren't making any additional mortgage payments. The only difference is that we're going to be investing this $12,000 per year into the stock market. And assuming an annual rate of return of 8%, by year 30, it would grow to $1.36 million. And so here's a comparison between paying off debt versus investing. There's a difference of $139,000 favoring investing over paying off debt. And so although with investing, you're paying $158,000 more in interest over the 30 years, you still end up with more money because your money is growing and compounding at a higher rate. What's also interesting is that with investing, you start off stronger in the beginning years and then end up slightly in a better position in the end. While you're paying off your debt as soon as possible, you don't have much capital or wealth in the beginning years, but it has an exponential growth in the later years once the mortgage is paid off. Okay, but there are some key factors that we need to consider. The first being interest rates. For the simplicity of this calculation, we assume that the interest rates would stay the same over these 30 years. However, as you may know, interest rates are always increasing and decreasing. And if interest rates continue to rise, it may become more worthwhile to use this money to pay off your mortgage instead. As you can see here, if the mortgage interest rates rise to 4.5%, it actually becomes better to pay off your mortgage first rather than to invest your money in the stock market. Number 2, we also need to consider the average annual rate of return that we can get from investing per year. Now, over the long term, you can expect about a 7 to 8% rate of return from the stock market. However, this is not a guaranteed return. Some years might have a 20% rate of return, while some years might have a negative 10% rate of return. But over the long term, this is where you can expect about a 7 to 8% return per year. In contrast, the interest from your debt is a guaranteed return, which means if you spend $10,000 to pay off your mortgage at a 5% interest rate, you're guaranteed to save $500. And so that's why if you're planning to just buy and sell a property within the next few years, it may be better to just focus on paying off your mortgage to get the guaranteed return rather than taking a gamble by investing into the stock market. Also, another thing to consider is that if you're investing your money through a financial advisor, you're paying about a 2.5% management fee. And as you can see here, it can significantly reduce the returns that you get, especially in the long term. And that's the reason why I teach all of my clients how to invest their own money so that they can make and keep more of their money. And if you want to learn more about working with me, just go to the link in the description below. There's also some tax implications that we need to consider. Firstly, the interest rate on your mortgage can only be tax deductible if it's used to generate income. And so if this property is for your principal residence, the house that you live in, the interest on your mortgage wouldn't be tax deductible, unless you work from home where you're able to make some slight deductions. But when you sell your property, if it's a principal residence, you don't have to pay any taxes on any capital gains. On the other hand, if you're investing your money through the RSP and TFSA, there are some major tax advantages. If you invest money in the RSP, you're able to get a before tax deduction to reduce your taxable income. This is extremely important for high income earners. And within both the RSP and the TFSA, your money is able to grow and compound tax-free. And this is the reason why it's so important to have a tax planning strategy so that you can figure out the best ways to pay less taxes and keep more of your hard-earned money. And if you want to learn more about the RSP and TFSA, make sure to watch this video right over here. Lastly, we need to consider some non-financial factors. Having a mortgage is a big financial obligation that you may not want, especially if you're getting close to the age of retirement. And so if you're in your 50s, you may want to start prioritizing paying off your mortgage. But at the same time, paying off your mortgage also has some risks. For example, if you work in a very volatile industry like tech or energy, you might have a high risk of losing your job. And if you use all of your money and savings to pay off your mortgage as soon as possible, you may not have any money to rely on. Meanwhile, if you were to invest your money instead, at least you have a bit of a cushion where in the worst case scenario, you can sell some of your investments so that you don't have to go into even more debt. And so as you can see, whether you should invest or pay off your debt really depends on a variety of financial and non-financial factors. So when my client started working with me, she initially really wanted to pay off her mortgage because she felt like her debt was chaining her down. But when we actually took a look into the numbers, she realized, oh, maybe having a mortgage isn't actually that bad. And so because her mortgage interest rate is so low, she actually decided to invest this extra $1,000 per month in the stock market so that she could allow her investments to grow and compound. This strategy would give her a little bit of security if anything were to happen to her day job. Now, at the same time, in the next 5 years, her mortgage is going to be up for renewal. And so depending on where interest rates are, we might have to change our strategy moving forward. And we might end up trying to pay off more of the mortgage if interest rates rise. And so to summarize, you should pay off your mortgage as soon as possible when Number 1, you have a mortgage interest rate of 5% or higher. Number 2, you're not confident to invest your own money to get a 7 to 8% rate of return per year. And lastly, you want the security of being debt-free sooner. In contrast, you should invest your money while paying off your mortgage when Number 1, you have a mortgage interest rate of 4% or lower. Number 2, you have a financial plan to invest your own money to get a 7 to 8% rate of return per year. And lastly, you work in a volatile industry and so you want some security from having investments in case you lose your job. And so this is how I help my clients decide whether they should invest or pay off their mortgage as soon as possible. But as you can see, there are a lot of nuances, and what you decide to do really depends on your unique financial situation and goals. What I always like to say is that personal finance is personal. And this is why it's so important to have a financial plan so that you can figure out what is the best decision for you to do. And if you'd like my help with this, apply to get a free financial audit with me. We have limited spots, so to apply, just go to the link in the description below. Now, if you haven't bought a place yet, you might be wondering whether you should buy or rent a place. And so watch this video right over here where I walk you through the 5 steps to decide whether you should buy or rent your next place. See you in the next one.